Well, good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here. More excited, I think, to be out of a car today and out of that driver's seat than anything. But it's great to be back in my hometown, and I'm so excited to be able to share with you a little bit about my experience as Miss Minnesota as well as my music. So I'm going to start off with the music part. I'm going to perform a piece called Banjo and Fiddle. Real quick and I'll be right back. All right, well that definitely warmed my fingers up a little bit. They were pretty cold and clammy on the way down, or way up here from Minneapolis. I left at 8 o'clock this morning and didn't get here until 12:30, so it was quite the drive, but I'm happy to have made it here in one piece. I wanted to start off by sharing with you a little bit about myself. I'm actually a native of Nisswa. I live about 10 minutes away from here. I graduated from Brainerd High School in 2011. and then went off to complete 2 years of pharmacy school at Ohio Northern University. And recently, in this past year, I competed for the title of Miss Minnesota, won that, and went on to compete at Miss America, placing 4th runner-up and also a preliminary talent winner. So it has been quite the year for me, but I'm excited to come back and share with you what I've learned from those experiences. I wanted to start off by quickly telling you a little bit about the organization that I represent this year, and that is the Miss America organization. It is one of the largest, actually the largest provider of scholarships for young women in the world. Last year they offered just over $45 million to about 12,000 women across the country. And for me personally, they have provided me with about $25,000 worth of scholarships for school, which, as many of you know, will not take care of the entire thing, but it's definitely helpful, and every little bit counts. So this organization has done more than provide me with scholarships. It's a service organization as well, and there are a few elements of the Miss America organization that separate it from other pageant systems like Miss USA. So I might be a little biased here, but I think that Miss America is the better pageant. The first reason is because Miss America contestants are required to have a talent, and clearly that was the violin for me. And then we're also required to have a platform. My platform this year revolves around autism. As some of you may know, my older brother Phil has a moderately severe form of autism called pervasive developmental disorder, and so he struggles to understand body language and facial expressions, understand figures of speech and humor, and his IQ is below average, and so he does struggle in many different ways, and I've had the unique opportunity to be a voice for him. And that has been such a blessing and such a learning experience for me, because I never before took the time to really understand what it meant to have autism. And so I am currently serving as Autism Speaks Community Ambassador. I work with Autism Speaks, which is one of the largest science and advocacy organizations for autism, and I've been able to do a lot of work with them this year so far. So I'm very excited to see where that takes the autism community, and I think it's going to do great things for them. So those are the two things that separate Miss America from other pageants. But there's, of course, a swimsuit portion of the competition, evening gown, onstage question, and interview. And so there's definitely a lot of meat to this Miss America organization. So I'm sure some of you are wondering how I ever got involved with this. I'm a Nisswa girl, so I live about 10 minutes away from here, and pageants were never on my radar, not even until my senior year of high school. So I was approached by the local directors of the Miss Brainerd pageant, which is the prelim pageant to Miss Minnesota and Miss America, and they asked me if I'd be interested in competing. And the first thought I had was, like, the last thing I want to do is put on a swimsuit in front of my 2 older brothers and my grandparents and my dad. And so that was definitely not something that intrigued me at first. But the more I learned about this organization, the more I found that it was a way for me to integrate different areas of my life that used to be separate. So as a cross-country runner and a violinist and a sister of somebody impacted by autism, there was never a way for me before to pull those all together. And I found that the pageant was a perfect opportunity to do that. I was able to use my violin in the talent portion, use my brother as an inspiration for my platform, and then also to use my background in cross country to hopefully help me a little bit in swimsuit on that stage. And so it was really neat to be able to see those things come together and then magnify the influence that I could have on other people because of that integration of different areas of life. So I've learned so much in the last year especially. There are so many things that I have taken away from this experience that I wouldn't have been able to take away in college or in school, and those things are really going to kind of change the way I view the rest of my life. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, or I want to talk to you today about something that would apply to all of you. As I was preparing for today, I thought about the fact that quite a few of you probably have a few years of life experience on me. So what could I offer that would be relative and relatable and something that we can kind of all learn from? And so I thought about one of the biggest things that I learned throughout my year as Miss Minnesota. And that issue revolves around the fact, not around the fact, but it revolves around the idea of self-worth in a performance-driven society. I kept asking myself, how often do I look at what I've achieved and what I do in pageants and try to give myself value based on the things that I have achieved. And I feel like a lot of my life had been driven by this performance-based self-worth. I grew up playing the violin at a very young age. I was 4 years old when I first started. And so from there, I learned that the way I performed and what I did when I competed and won competitions, that was a way where I felt my value. The same thing went into my cross-country career in middle school and high school. I was a cross-country runner, so I was balancing my violin practice, which was about 4 hours a day, and cross-country practice and homework, all of those things that were evaluated on based on how we perform. And the reason I chose this topic today is because I think it's very translatable into all stages of life. We're always being told by society that we need to be better. We need to be a better mom, a better wife, a better boss, have a better job, have more money, and the list could go on, right? So I kept asking myself this question this past year, is if I took all those things away, if I took away my ability to play the violin, if I took away my legs so I couldn't run or do any physical activity, if I covered my face with a ski mask so no one could see who I was, would people still be able to tell that it was me, Rebecca? And I found myself not knowing the answer to that question. And that bothered me because we all want to have a sense of worth that isn't valued based on performance. And so I really had to take a step back and look at my pageant experience and look at the fact that I was competing in a swimsuit. I was competing in an interview, so they were judging me based on my likability and how much knowledge I had. They were judging me on my performance of the violin. And all of those things, I realized that if they were taken away, I need to have more. I need to have more to me than just what I do and how I perform. And so I actually learned a lot of this from my brother Phil, who has autism. And I learned that his self-worth wasn't in what he achieved. He wasn't the most athletic, the smartest, the most sociable of any of us in our family, yet there was a reason why we all look up to him. And I think that really says a lot about self-worth coming from inner beauty rather than outer beauty and outer performance. And so, as Miss Minnesota here standing, talking to you about this, I want to be, I want to be able to say from my perspective that you could take away everything or I could have everything. I could have the rocking swimsuit body, the rocking interview, a great talent, but without something more deeper, those things really will never satisfy me. And I think we often fall into the lie that our worth is evaluated on performance. And so that's really how I grew up believing, my worth was based from. And so I really had to challenge myself this past year and realize that, as my life goes on, I'm not going to have the same body I do now. I probably won't be able to play the violin as well as I do now, and those things will all fail, but there has to be something a little deeper. For me, I found that strengthened my faith, and that's a very, personal issue, and I don't, it might not be the same for everyone, but for me, it really strengthened my faith in finding, that my value wasn't in the world's eyes. And for you today, I want to challenge you and ask you, if all those things that allow you to perform were taken away, where do you find your self-worth? And that may be different for all of you, but I think it's a great question to ponder. It's a great question to work through and to realize that, you know, it's an important question to answer at some point. And that is my challenge to you today, and I hope that you find an answer in whatever way works for you. So in closing, thank you for having me speak here today. I am excited to continue my journey as Miss Minnesota. I give up my crown in June, and so I won't be able to be Miss Minnesota forever. So this was a great, experience to have, and it's taught me a lot. Even though I was thrown into all these performance-based activities, it really taught me the complete opposite of that. So that's been really neat. I'm going to be around for a while, so if you have questions about my Miss America experience or what it's been like as Miss Minnesota, please come up to me afterwards. I'd love to chat about that and any other questions that you have. It's been great to be able to be here today, and I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to perform for you, and hope to be back around soon. It's always nice to have an excuse to come back to home. So thank you.
Good.